Some inane, bizarre person with a disturbed mind wrote that film, and I did not enjoy it.
Beats the hell out of me. I gotta think about it for a while.
Oh, I thought it was the ultimate suspense thriller. I kept waiting for something to happen, and it never did.
Eraserhead is a unique motion picture experience. I recommend it to everyone.
It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
I first saw Eraserhead in the early days of cable, which really was they're just throwing anything they could on TV on these different new stations coming up.
Hi, I'm Gilbert Gottfried, USA Up All Night.
Right, and Eraserhead was the one. I loved it immediately. Showed it to you after we got married. I've been trying to convince you to love it for 25 years. And we just rewatched it last night. Mm-hmm. Do you love it now?
No.
What are your thoughts? No, why? You seem to be enjoying it.
Okay, but here's the thing, though. I don't hate it either.
That's a step up.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel like I've made progress. No, I don't love it. I don't hate it. I just feel like maybe me and David Lynch, that would be maybe an awkward conversation.
Wood is such a blessing for humanity.
I'm not sure where he's coming from.
What the f*** is David Lynch doing?
Came out in 1977.
Mm-hmm.
He also did the soundtrack and the score and all of that stuff, which is, I think, important to note because to me, the sound of Eraserhead is one of the cool things about it. There's this constant industrial background going on at all times, all kinds of weird, just whatever. I don't know. But
so let's back out for a second and let's talk about what we think the movie is about. Because, I mean, this is obviously an art piece.
Sure.
You know, it's obviously an art piece. It's less about the story and more about the feel.
Do you think it's more of an art piece than, say, Paul Blart Mall Cop?
Slightly.
What makes it more of one?
Well, you know, I don't know. I guess less Kevin James would.
Oh, come on.
No. So when I say art piece, for example, let me give you some examples. So there are pieces that are black and white, and pieces that are slightly not. Little bursts of color here. Eraserhead is a dude with a girlfriend. It's pretty clear. It's made pretty clear that they're living in sin.
Yeah.
And that his girlfriend had a baby, which his girlfriend's apartment could be the video for the Rolling Stones' Paint It Black video.
Probably, yeah.
She painted everything in that apartment black. But it's, you know, it's black and white. It's stark. There's more sound than dialogue. There's just very much a feel throughout the movie, a feel of discomfort.
The American Film Institute were kind of funding that movie when he was in school based on a 22-page script. Well, they didn't realize how much it was just sound and ambience and not actually dialogue, right? So it took 5 years to complete because he kept running out of money because it was a full-length film and not a 22-minute long film, right? And so he'd deliver papers and some other people to help out. I think Sissy Spacek, her husband, helped.
And I wonder if you looked up my little factoid that I realized in there. Was the lady that played his girlfriend, did she indeed play Mrs. Beadle?
She did. That is Charlotte Stewart, who you might know from Tremors 3 or from 45 episodes of Little House on the Prairie as Mrs. Beadle.
That's right.
You were right. You said that. And I was like, man, that looks like her. But I just couldn't believe Mrs. Beadle would be an Eraserhead.
Yes. Mrs. Beadle from Little House on the Prairie was Eraserhead's girlfriend.
She was doing Little House on the Prairie when she did that.
It's like being schizophrenic, kind of. I would do Eraserhead at night David Lynch could only shoot at night at the American Film Institute. It's back in the early 70s. And then during the daytime, I would go over to Little House and shoot that. I was also shooting the Waltons.
I wonder what Paul had to say about that when she came back to Walnut Grove.
Right.
She had to leave and have that space alien parasite baby and then...
Go back. It was a big scandal.
It was.
It's a big scandal.
Doc Baker was like, you got to get out of Walnut Grove quick. So the time we had the Weevils were bad or whatever those were.
This is all Mrs. Beadle. No, I do, speaking of space alien, I do have the resounding feeling, the overall feeling with any David Lynch movie or show that I have been abducted by aliens. Taken to this weird alien mind. You get to look around for a little bit and you go, huh, that's wild. And then you get off the bus, then you're done.
I'm a big fan of it. And I like surrealism when done right, like Kafka. Pulled that one out of there. Or something like that. So much of it's done badly and it's kind of artsy-fartsy and pretentious. And some people say that about David Lynch. They think he's pretentious, but I don't think so. His stuff has this dark sense of humor to me that cracks me up. I mean, I belly laugh in parts of Eraserhead. They're just so when they're cutting up that chicken and it starts moving and the dad is just staring at the camera.
Right. Me, not so much.
It's so awkward. Like, it's just so awkward. Like, that's the most awkward meeting of the girlfriend's parents ever.
You'll be all right in a minute.
Right. It really is. It really, really is.
Made for $10,000 altogether over 5 years, and then plus whatever paper route money. It flopped at first, believe it or not. That was not a big blockbuster until they started running it in the midnight movie slot, where it became an unprecedented success in New York, San Francisco, places like that.
Okay. And then Midwesterners also caught on.
Later on basic cable, the Midwest got it.
Way
That's
later.
where I saw it.
Like me,
Yeah.
2023 would be when I caught on, right?
It has influenced a lot of directors. Stanley Kubrick loved it and made the cast and crew of The Shining watch it before they got started to know what kind of, I guess, mood he was going for. H.R. Geiger, do you know this guy? Then finally, it's Charles Bukowski's favorite movie. You can believe it, Charles Bukowski is sitting around, glug, 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 drinking his beers, watching some Eraserhead.
I mean, and then many of the great poets of the past, I've read their stuff, I read it. All I get is a goddamn headache and boredom. I really feel sickness in the pit of my stomach. I say, there's some trick going on here. This is not true. This is not real. It's not good.
Well, I want to know two things. There's two things I want to know. Important questions.
Sure. About
this movie. And as far as summarizing it, putting it in a little package for you, we can't do that for you. This is a David Lynch movie. You just have to go see it. You have to experience it. It's something you have to feel, right? Yeah. Wouldn't you agree? Love it, hate it, whatever. You have to feel it to decide for yourself. But I'm sorry.
No, I was going to ask you what your theory is on it.
My theory, and it's long and convoluted, and we're not going to go into it because I could go on for days, episodes. Really? My theory is that Eraserhead is somebody's subconscious. He is somebody's subconscious thought. And you see a lot of symbolism that's related to that, with the conductor guy that's kind of running a train of thought, right? Sure. You see him going around that giant factory that seems to be the main part of whatever's going on, and he's kind of sneaking around the back. Anyway, like I said, episodes. I could go on episodes. But that's my theory, is that that's his subconscious, is Eraserhead. And that's why it's so dreamlike and wild and crazy.
It is very dreamlike. Like there's parts where Henry will say something, like I think something like to the baby, like you are sick, and there's nothing visible there until he says it, and then it appears, which is kind of dreamlike, right?
Oh, you are sick.
It's interesting you say that about his subconscious because they say that this is actually based on David Lynch's life.
Believe it or not, Eraserhead is my most spiritual film.
Why elaborate on that?
No. This is his most personal film I've read. Now, I don't know if he said that, but people have said that because he had just recently, I think, had his daughter who had some health problems when she was born and needed a lot of surgeries. So I think people say this is like the existential dread of uncertain fatherhood. And definitely, I think he has said that the industrial backdrop is based on his childhood in Philadelphia, I think. Pittsburgh maybe.
Okay.
Don't know. So yeah, now you do know what it's like a little bit inside of David Lynch's head. Maybe.
I do. Awkward conversation or no, I would like to speak to him. Because I do want to ask him two things, two burning questions for me. Number one, why is Grandma in the kitchen?
Why is Grandma in the kitchen? Yeah. I'd like to know why Grandma's in the kitchen.
Why is Grandma in the kitchen? I really got to know. And number two,
Better be in there cooking me up some dinner.
I got to know.
Grandma.
I got to know what you made that baby puppet out of.
Nobody knows.
Was it made out of, well, I have a suspicion. I think I know what he made it out of.
What's that?
Well, I have two guesses. My first guess would be nightmares. Yeah. My second guess would be the skins of his enemies. Either way, it's haunting. That puppet, the little puppet they make of his horrible monster baby that he has is...
You said it looked like Admiral Akbar. It's a trap.
Kind of.
It kind of does, yeah.
It kind of looked like Admiral Akbar crossed with a lima bean crossed with a placenta.
A giant, It looks like a giant messed up sperm to me that's maybe been irradiated.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe it has lead poisoning or something.
Again, we can't wrap this in a nice little package for you. You're just going to have to see it.
But Miss Beadle never been better.
It was their finest work. It's their finest work.
The other actors in there, they've been in a few other things. I don't think any of them ever were super, super famous, but they were in some other David Lynch stuff and whatnot. Probably the most famous was Charlotte Stewart, I believe. A lot of TV work.
Quick, if I did have to summarize it, I could give you some things exclusive to the David Lynch universe so you kind of know what you're getting into, okay? Mm-hmm. You're getting into beef chops.
In heaven.
Who lives in the radiator. Okay, just beef chops.
Is the radiator heaven?
You're
Is that
getting
the afterlife?
You're getting into radiator wind, which I didn't realize radiators made wind, because I've never experienced a radiator making wind around me.
Have you ever had one that was a portal to another dimension, though?
No. There's a lot of radiator wind blowing through this film. And floating headworm, and then when floating headworm is really serious and intense, then it's strobing floating headworm. So just be aware of that.
How many Eraserheads do you give Eraserhead?
Man, I give it one giant Ticonderoga pink, like, rectangle eraser. That's what I give it. I think it's solid. I think it speaks for itself. What it says, we don't know.
Okay, so you were talking about Eraserhead and what it meant?
Yeah.
It means whatever you get from it. like going to a museum and you look at a piece of art, it just, you have to let it wash over you.
I gotta give it 10 out of 10 Eraserhead. It's been one of my favorite for years. I watch it every year or two. I always somehow find someone who hasn't seen it that I can talk into watching it with me, which is always fun.
It's me.
Because they just don't know what to expect, and then, well...
Yeah, and here we are.
If you've seen it, let us know below what you think. And if you haven't, go watch it and then come back and let us know what you think. It's definitely worth the experience, which I've had different theories of it off and on over the years. I've stopped having a theory of it. I just let it wash over me and experience it, right?
Right.
That's all you can do.
That's right.
Eraserhead was growing in a certain way, and I didn't know what it meant. I was looking for a key to unlock what these sequences were saying. So I got out my Bible and started reading. And one day I read a sentence, and I closed the Bible, because that was it. That was it. And then I saw the thing as a whole, and it fulfilled this vision for me 100%. I don't think I'll ever say what that sentence was,